So let's write like an example as if this was like a print queue. And that's often called like a print queue for a printer is like the order in which different jobs will be printed based on the order in which they're sent in. So we're going to put this inside the main method. We're going to create a print queue of strings, and we're going to do this using a linked list. Okay. So I'll type this and then we need to explain like what we mean by this. We're creating a new linked list object, just like we did earlier in this unit. However, after we create this new linked list object, we're assigning it to a variable, jobs, of type queue, because the linked list class implements the queue interface. And so by assigning it to a variable of type queue, when I use the variable jobs, I cannot invoke linked list methods, like all the linked list methods, on the variable jobs because its type is queue. I can only invoke methods defined by the queue class. So the linked list class defines a lot of methods that are not part of the queue interface. But by assigning it this way, I'm limited to just those methods of the queue interface. Why would this be useful? Quite a reasonable question. One, much like the stack, this specifies our intention for how this variable is to be used. We intend jobs to be used like a queue. We expect to add things to one end and remove things from the other, and that's it. We don't expect to use these other methods. Um, and it gives us some flexibility. Maybe we later decide that a different type of class that implements the queue interface would be a better choice or higher performing for our application. We could just create a different object here that also implements the queue interface, and we change that in one place in our code, and then everything else continues to work. We're just using a different underlying object that implements the queue interface. So that's why, this is another example where, unlike an APCSA, we're creating an object of one type, but assigning it to a variable of a different type that's either like a superclass or, in this case, an interface. So, all right, let's add some print jobs. Add several print jobs. And so we're just going to use strings to represent the print jobs that are added. We'll say Joe is printing junior photos. Okay, so this is like in this room here, this printer is primarily used by Yearbook. So these are all different people in Yearbook, and they're like printing things off to proof them for the yearbook. So Joe's going to print the junior photos. After he submits his job, in comes Kathy, and Kathy is submitting or printing faculty photos. So the printer warms up. The printer's like, okay, what am I going to print next? And what's going to print next? What's going to come out of the printer? Junior photos. First in, first out. Joe printed junior photos first, so that's what's going to be printed, or that he added junior photos first, so that's what's going to come out of the printer. So system.out println, we'll say printing, and then we'll say jobs.remove. And this will be Joe's junior photos. Um, let's print a few more things. Let's have Kathy is going to print photos of the cross country team. And then Joe is going to print senior photos. He's done with junior photos. And let's do one more. Oops, quotes. Joe is going to do sophomore photos too. Oh, goodness. There we go. So I'm gonna copy this line from line 19 down here. The printer finished printing the junior photos, and now it's gonna remove the next job and start printing that. And while that's gonna go on, last thing we'll print today, Kathy is gonna print the robotics spread in the yearbook. All right, so Joe and Kathy are done submitting their print jobs, but the printer still has a bunch of stuff to print. So I wanted to give you a little code snippet of how could we write what's the most common way to write a loop that will iterate through everything in the queue, removing it one at a time and doing something with it. And the way we usually structure this is while jobs.size is greater than 0, meaning while there are more things in the queue, print them. Just pasted that again. So this is probably the most common way we iterate through everything in a queue and then remove each element in order one at a time. So when you've got this typed in, give it a run, see if the output matches your expectations, the order in which things are printed. I'll do the same here. All right, junior photos, faculty photos, cross-country team photos, senior photos, sophomore photo, robotics spread. That looks great. That is what we would expect.